please.
Welcome, everyone. Isn't this great pizza? Two Jack's Pizza from Provo. And so I think, I don't know, the city is, do you pay for the pizza or do they donate it? You pay for it, but they also get advertising, right? Yes. And number 4 donuts for District 4 from Provo Bakery. So enjoy that. My name's Beth Hettengren. I'm the vice chair of the executive board for District 4. Our chair, Sarah Acey, is unable to be with us tonight, so I'm helping out. And I just want to introduce quickly our board members. We have Leah Duncan from Carterville, Mindy Jepson from Grandview South, Mel Smith, Grandview North, Aaron Scablin, Rivergrove, and Eric Chase, North Park. So you need to know who these people are so that you can go to them with your concerns about your neighborhood. And because we work closely with the city council and the city departments, we can go to them in your behalf and help out with problems that you may see. Or we can also let them know good things that are going on in the neighborhood, because that's a lot. There's a lot of good things. We will start with, where did I put my thing? Oh, first of all, raffle tickets. We have passes to the rec center, to the Provo Rec Center, free. And we're going to pass out tickets now, or it's already been done. You pick them up. And if you stay to the end of the meeting, we'll have a drawing and you may be the lucky winner of Provo Rec passes. We've got a very excited young man right here. So be sure to stay. We are starting with our department topics. We have Chris Blinzinger from the emergency coordinator, and he's going to talk to us about emergency communications. And right after him, Vern Keeslar from Traffic and Streets will come and give us a report on some exciting things going on with traffic. And we'll go to that point. And after that, we'll have a little bit of time for public comment. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Blinzinger. I'm the Provo City Emergency Manager. Here tonight just to talk to you a little bit about our emergency notification system. This is a self-subscription to be on the list. How many of you still have home phones in your house? Wonderful. So they don't make a phone book with cell phones, and so we were able to upload landlines, but those have been falling off. So we need, if you want emergency communications from the city, there's some cards back here with a QR code that you can scan, and you'll receive emergency notifications about sheltering in place, evacuations, something where you live. We can draw a map on the computer, and it will send a notice to everyone in that area. Just a couple of weeks ago, some of you might remember there was a tragic incident in Santaquin, one of our neighboring communities here on the south end of the valley. There was a fugitive on the loose. There was an officer killed in this incident, and the fugitive was on the loose. And an emergency message went out to the community saying, shelter in place, be aware, this is the description, take caution, and sent that message out. That individual was captured. They sent out, it's all clear, fugitive has been apprehended, gave those community members receiving the message that sense of security. But there were dozens of people who called the city and said, why didn't I get the alert? It's because they hadn't gone on here to register. That's why I recommend that you can use the QR code or you can use this website up here. This is a county system. It's countywide, but Provo has their own part of that, which we manage our communications. So I would encourage you to get on and do that. Another thing we are doing here in the city is recruiting ham radio operators in our neighborhoods to contribute to our emergency communications. If anyone here or online is a ham radio operator and would like to be involved with that, please get a hold of me, get a hold of Rachel. She can get you my information. The third thing is it's so important that I talk to a lot of community events about preparedness, things that you can do to prepare yourself. But I think something that we don't talk about enough is to check on your neighbors. A lot of places don't know their neighbors, but check on your neighbor. Get to know your neighbor, check on the people across the street when the sky is blue. So that when there's an emergency, you've already know their circumstances, maybe know them a little bit, and it sure is helpful in an emergency. Is there any questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
I believe I already am on the alerts list, but I assume it would be good for me to sign up a second time. And is there a problem signing up twice with the same phone number?
You would just get 2 notifications when the notification is sent out. If you've already registered, you can go in there with your login. You can manage that. Keep in mind, because it's a county system, if you've got a family member in another part of the county, you can put their address in that you're notified when something happens in that community or in the neighborhood where they live in a different city. Any other questions? Wonderful. Thanks, folks.
Vern?
Okay, we usually report on traffic studies that we receive from concerned residents about speeding and other things on residential streets. So wanted to show you this one that we have, and then we'll get a couple other things that we'll go through. If you have comments or questions, probably the best wait till the end of that particular topic. And then when we do have them, please speak in the microphone. Wait until someone hands you a microphone, because that's beneficial for the people at home and those of us that watch this in rerun. Okay, so 1975 North Area Street map. This is kind of the area. The functional class is probably use my pointer here. It's green. Functional classification is just a local street. And why that's not showing up, I'm not sure. So let me just show you where it's at. It is this street right here, 1975. I thought I had it highlighted. Well, I'm in your way. I'll stand over here. So we did look at crash data for the last 3 years. There were 2 total crashes, one intersection related because of a U-turn, and then one was a sideswiped a parked vehicle. The crash severity resulted in no injuries, and then the roadway surface was dry and it's clear weather. And one crash occurred during the night and one crash occurred during light conditions. So as we take a look at that, there's the 2 locations of the crashes. One was a U-turn right here. One was a side swipe of a parked vehicle. Just some definitions to help people understand what we observe and what we put out there. Most people understand what average speed is. The 85th percentile is important to recognize. That is 85% of the vehicles, of all vehicles, are observed to travel under free-flowing conditions past a monitoring point. So that's 85% is traveling at that speed or lower. I think everybody recognizes this volume is just the number of vehicles that pass by. And then I've added something that I'm a traffic geek. So directional distribution is the percentage of two-way traffic and what direction that goes. Some people might find that interesting. I certainly do. Okay. So when we go up there and we take a look at, this is where we put the Moderington point. We had a complaint. We put it right in front of someone's home. And the person that complained. And so we put it right there and want to understand that, make sure that we report back the findings. And in this particular case, we did it for 4 days, about 77 hours. So just a little over three full days. Posted speed limit is 25 miles an hour. The eastbound average speed was 18 miles per hour. The 85th percentile was 22. Everybody would love that speed on their street. Westbound average speed was 22 miles an hour, and the 85th percentile was just 2 miles over the posted speed at 27. The overall average was 20 miles an hour with the 85th percentile of 25. Now, this doesn't mean that there wasn't any speeding on the street. There was. Look at the few bad apples that were going in this category, 36 to 40 and 51 to 55. So we do have a couple of people that were, not adhering to the speed limit. I think what we're witnessing on this particular street is these mini motorcycles and these electric motorcycles. They can go really fast, very quickly. And I think that was the complaint, more centered on that rather than speeding. The volume results are always nice to take a look at. On this particular street, eastbound, there were 648 vehicles a day. Westbound, there are 768 vehicles a day. So my directional distribution is always fun to look at, 46 to 54. So going to eastbound, there's 46%, and going westbound, there's 54%. And then overall, you can see the total vehicles for the entire study period. And then they experience about 1,400 vehicles a day. Summary, there should be 2 total crashes. I don't know why that's always saying 1, but 2 total crashes. Overall speed was 20. Overall 85th percentile was 25. And we just really don't have a problem here. Sometimes we just need people to exercise a little bit better judgment on those electric motorcycles and those mini motorcycles. So that's where we're at. Yes. Oh, hang on.
I was just gonna ask one question regarding this. What time periods were the things done? Because you had 4 days, 72 hours. Were they 9 to 5?
24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. So 77 hours total. We had, so that's over 3 days of continuous monitoring. Yeah, well, we pull it off or we post it at night. And so there's only about 4 or 6 hours that first day, or maybe there's only 2 or 4 hours that last day.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, well, let's move on. 1460 North Jordan Avenue crosswalk. Was there another question? Did I see some hand raised? Okay, thanks, Beth. This particular crosswalk is located up on 1460 North and Jordan Avenue. Most people know where it's at. This is the old site for the Grandview Elementary School. This is a remnant school crosswalk for that particular school, not for the school that's down the street called Westridge Elementary. So we looked at the safe routes plan, realized it was a leftover school crosswalk. We're going to change that from a school crosswalk, what you see here, to a regular pedestrian crosswalk. What that allows me to do is paint the ladder. You'll see this is the way it's currently painted. This is the way we're going to paint it in the future. And then it allows me to also put a flashing yellow lights on top of that pedestrian crosswalk in both the eastbound and westbound direction. Because we all know when we come up that hill, we got our foot on the accelerator, right? We're trying to get up the Dugway, and then we come up to the flat portion right at the top of the hill. And it literally appears as we're coming up the hill. So it'd be better and safer if we had some flashing yellow lights to remind people of the crosswalk there. But that will be a pedestrian crosswalk and not a school crosswalk. So it will necessitate us removing the school pavement marking symbols in each direction. Okay. Let me see. With that, I don't have any more on those two topics. So let's go to our third and final presentation. Dave Mickelson, who's our project manager for this particular project, will tag team this presentation with me. This is improvements to the Provo River Bridge and Trail at 820 North. So we're going to talk about goals and funding, our background and contacts, and then I'll pass it over to Dave. He'll talk about cross sections, public involvement, and then we'll end up with comments and questions. Everybody's probably pretty familiar with this particular bridge. Our goals of the project is really upgrade safety, improve comfort for all users, and support connectivity for the 75-year life cycle of the bridge. Funding comes from a grant that we received about 5 or 6 years ago. You got to apply that far in advance to get the funding. And so it's about a $13.6 million project. Little background on the Provo River Bridge. Everybody's pretty familiar with it. This is a current picture. Solid double yellow line in the middle, very narrow shoulder, very narrow sidewalk. It was constructed in 1960, so it's really approaching its lifespan. The bridge deck is 80 feet long, 40 feet wide. We have over 11,000 vehicles per day on that particular bridge. And we got about 4 deficiencies that the National Bridge Inventory has listed for this particular structure. Existing issues with the Provo River Bridge, you can see the sidewalk, the narrow shoulder, which is a de facto bike lane, which is insufficient. Weight limit is an issue. Our parapet height is an issue, and our sight distance is an issue. Underneath the bridge, it's only 8 feet wide, and we got some height clearances too. We also got some vertical grade coming up out of that. We really like to keep that about 8% or less. I think we're approaching probably about 13 to 15% on that exit there. So we do have some issues. Better connectivity to the street network would be one as well that we could resolve with this. The Provo River Trail is just a gem of Provo, right? You can take this so far, all the way to the Utah Lake State Park, all the way up to Vivian, and then eventually beyond. It's a wonderful park, but at its narrowest section is right here at this bridge at 8 feet, when some of it is wider than that and varies up to 16 feet in width. This is a well house here. This is some infrastructure that we got to protect and we got to consider as our setback with the bridge. One thing that I found really interesting was not only do we have 11,300 vehicles daily traffic on that, but we have over 100,000 users that use the bridge and the sidewalk on street. And it's not very inviting. And yet we have a lot of people that use that. And then underneath, we have over 200,000 users annually on the Provo River Trail that go underneath this bridge. And so just think, if we can improve this bridge, how much potential we have for more users for active transportation. So let's go on to the planning context. It's been on our general plan as an arterial since 1977, from 700 East all the way to University Avenue. It's only a minor arterial. And I-15 interchange is not listed in Provo City's transportation master plan. We don't plan freeways and we don't plan interchanges. That's something UDOT does. But we do plan on making sure that we accommodate traffic for the next many years with the potential of looking at any needs for future widening. So as we take a look at this, UDOT will do an environmental study to determine in the future where and if an interchange should be located. And they'll look anywhere from Center Street in Provo all the way up to University Parkway in Orem. So they'll look at 820, they'll look at 500 North, they'll look at 1460 North, they'll look at 1730 North, they'll look at 2000 North, they'll look at all those roadways. So you can see here, we have a section of 820 North to widen to 5 lanes from 500 West to University Avenue. That's our heaviest traveled section of 820 North. We're a little behind schedule, inflation, costs, I say a little behind schedule. We're probably about 5 years behind schedule in doing that. And then our phase 2, we want to improve capacity, safety, and active transportation along the corridor from Geneva Road to 500 West. And then finally, on the east side, we want a consistent cross section of 2 or 3 lanes on 820 all the way over to 7th East. Our Provo Transportation Active Transportation Master Plan has a multi-use path on the south side of 800 and 820 all the way from 7th East to Geneva Road. And finally, the MAG shows to replace the bridge. We're within that time frame. Phase 2, widen 5 lanes from Geneva Road to University Avenue. So that's in their 2033-42 time frame. And then phase 2, I-15 820 North Interchange. And I can tell you that that is not funded yet to do this study even. So don't know when they'll have the funds to do that, but maybe they'll do it in 2033. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over to our project manager in charge of the design, and that is project engineer Dave Mickelson.
Thank you, Vern. Appreciate you guys' time and having me out tonight. So as we're considering the design for the potential bridge replacement, we're going to be considering a number of different things. So these are concept cross sections that we're considering, and then I'll kind of show you some plan views of what that would kind of look like in real life. So existing bridge conditions, obviously it's insufficient. We've got a lot of lacking here for our modes of transportation that use this bridge so heavily. Like Vern mentioned, this road is classified as a major arterial, but one section we are considering is our minor arterial section. These are from our master plan, just kind of these road widths. So this would be considering 50 feet of asphalt, about 71 total width of the bridge. And this would accommodate 3 lanes of traffic with that center median, bike lanes, and walking path on the south with a sidewalk on the north. In the future, though, if we were to widen this road, we would use that same bridge section. We wouldn't look at adding on or anything like that. So we'd utilize the space that we have, narrowing down that path on the south to 6 feet, reducing bike lanes to 4 feet, narrowing up lanes, and putting a hard median down the center to kind of squeeze in everyone's on that bridge at that time. This is not ideal. Obviously, it kind of pushes out active transportation and sacrifices them for some extra lanes of travel. This isn't a situation we want to put the city in. And so we're trying to find a happy medium between this and what I'll show you next to kind of bridge that gap. So this is our arterial cross section. So this is 78 feet of pavement with 99 feet total width of the bridge. This would be kind of the full build out. We would look at striping the bridge in the interim, same as it is now, 3 lanes, bike lanes, and keep it that way. But this would be kind of the cross section in the full build out. 5 lanes of travel, really wide bike lanes, and adequate walking path on both sides. However, if we were to consider something larger like this, now this is probably the largest we'll go. In all reality, we may decide something in between. We might find a happy medium. We're looking at all aspects, both on the structure side, cost for that, how the river plays into it. There's a lot of key things that are playing into this. Regardless, though, if we choose kind of a wider bridge, what we'll do is make the bridge transitional. So we will build the bridge in a way that it prevents kind of that openness of the bridge to feel like it's just open space for the next 15, 20 years, however long it is. So I'll switch back and forth between these 2 slides here, but this one kind of shows what we would do. So rather than having our median back just next to the sidewalk, we'd bump that out into the roadway and neck down that road so that it exists as a 3-lane road. This way, it doesn't feel like a really large road. It wouldn't feel like a 5-lane road. And we would kind of utilize that extra space on the bridge. You can kind of see behind the bike lanes and the barrier. We'd put, maybe some landscaping features, some benches, some amenities that would integrate the bridge into both the pedestrians, the bikes, just kind of make it a little bit nicer visually, but also utilize that space in the interim while we're waiting for funding or whatever widening project that happens. So you kind of see that from the top view some benches, some landscaping, just something to kind of make the bridge a little bit more appealing in the time that we're waiting for that. So these are two cross sections that we kind of just looking from plan view. Is this the pointer on this one right here? The green. Okay. So you can see this is kind of the minor arterial here, and this is our major arterial shown down here. And really the extent of the project. We're trying to maintain everything that we would improve between 950 West and 800 West. Trying to keep that scope of this project just as narrow as we can. That may change depending on where the bridge lands. We're trying to improve some of the side distances and some of the vertical, but we're balancing where the trail is going to be. So there's a lot of balancing act with this design. One thing I do want to point out is regardless of what size of the bridge we're going to do, two safety improvements that we're looking at doing is on 850 West here on the south and 900 West on the north side of the bridge. We are looking at closing those accesses to 820 North and 800 North to prevent any conflicts at those intersections. We feel really strongly about these. This will be kind of just a driveway access here on the south side of 850. And on the north, there's a vacant lot here on the north that we're working with property owners to see if we can purchase some of that property, whether we do a cul-de-sac or kind of like a hammerhead layout. That's undecided, but those two are really safety features that we want to pursue with this bridge. So public involvement going into this, we have hired Avenue Consultants as our PI firm, and so they're kind of heading up a lot of our information that we're putting out. So currently right now we're just informing stakeholders. So we're meeting with neighborhood meetings like this. We've met with Planning Commission, Transportation Mobility Advisory Committee, so TMAC. We have a meeting set up with BYU, I believe, or we're working on that. We're going to be working with Intermountain Health, downtown Provo. We've met with Bike Walk. So we're just trying to meet with everyone in the city who has interest in this and really just bring the information to them. Avenue has set up citywide information. So I'll show you the last slide. They've set up a website, an email, and a hotline so that they can distribute the information from this project. And you can visit that email, call, and they'll be able to provide information on current status, where we're at, anything like that. So you can kind of see here are the updated list of our meetings that we've had so far and future meetings. The big one here is right here now, the general public meeting. So on June 6th, that's next Thursday, we're having our big open house. We'll have tons of slides and information. Avenue Consultants will be there. Provo City will be there. And then our structural team, AECOM, who we've contracted to design the bridge, will also be there to kind of provide information about that side, environmental, all those kind of considerations. So this is something that we're taking really great care of, and we want to make sure that everyone's informed and has the information about this project. And then those are the contacts for that website and email address and phone number that Avenue set up for us. So that is all that we have. So I think we can move into questions. Yes.
If I remember correctly, it looked like to me that you were going to have 5 lanes from University Avenue and 5 lanes coming from Geneva. So I know it's a done deal. How come if you do the 3 lanes here, that means you're going to have 2 lanes merge and stuff. So the reality is you're going to have to do 5 lanes for the bridge.
Well, either way, either cross section of the bridge will be able to fit quote unquote 5 lanes. Through the bridge section, if we do something like this, it's 4 lanes. 5 lanes is just to indicate that we have a median there. That may look different depending on how we do the widening project. Now, one aspect I forgot to cover is, and to kind of bring up to that point is, how we're trying to position this bridge, the skew and the angle, we're trying to put in a way that the widening of 820 North can be determined at a future date. So we want to set the bridge so that any future alignment, whether that's, we're swinging this way or south or middle, whatever we're doing, the bridge will accommodate that. So yes, there will be a widening project. We don't know when that will be, but we know that it will come. We just don't know that information, but that is consideration that we have to have as part of this bridge project. You're right. We want to consider that because this bridge will last for 75 years. 15, 20 years down the road, we may need widening. We may not. We just don't know how technology is going to advance, how transportation, there's a lot of factors. So we're trying to best plan for the future and use the money that we have available the most wise.
I'm just making the observation you're between a rock and a hard spot, because the reality is if you're going to do 5 lanes, the bridge has got to be 5 lanes.
Right.
We can skip and go back and forth and say this, that, and the other, but that's reality.
Yeah, and I think, and to that point, I think that's why there's a balance between the widths of the bridge, right? Obviously, we can go to the maximum that we have here in our transportation master plan, or we can find something that's maybe a little bit more uncomfortable. There might be something in between that meets our needs for that 5 lanes, but also isn't overbuilding for what we do need.
We have a comment on Zoom. It says the river trail that runs beneath this bridge is one of the steeper and more dangerous ones for cyclists.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that will be part of our design considerations. Again, it's a balance of how much we can push this bridge lower to kind of remove some of the side distances. But that is an aspect that we are going to try to address with this project to remove some of that steepness. Yeah, over here.
This on. Okay. Just a couple of things. I travel this section quite a bit every day, and I know I am concerned about the safety. You know, if there's a lot of children, the schools are all on the street. There's a lot of streets there. Trying to turn west, I guess, onto some of the streets is very difficult right now. You probably know that already. The cars will line up, especially during school hours. So that's a concern I have. I do like the transition picture though you had. I thought that was really good. Oh, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. Oh yeah, the bike lanes and stuff. Why don't you just do a bike trail instead of a bike lane and a walking lane? I can't tell you how many times that I have go by bicyclists and they are on the left side of the line and I still have to turn and go around them. So is there any reason why we couldn't do something like that?
I think that'd be something, that's obviously an alternative that we could look like in the future. Since this project is purely just the bridge, we'd want to just kind of keep our scope for this project, just looking at that bridge. But in the future, yeah, that could be a possibility to look at, see what trail options that we have, provided what space we have. So, yes.
A question for Vern. Vern, the study that you did on 1975 North was quite surprising. That was like a car per second on a road I would think would be slower than that. You pick up scooters. Do you pick up electric bikes, electric scooters when you put out your equipment?
Yes, Councilor Garrett, our equipment, which is very modest in size, there used to be those big orange trailers that we put out and raise a pole up about 12 feet and catch everything with Wavetronics radar. They're very different now and they're very discreet. And so it doesn't really impact. You saw a orange construction trailer. A lot of times you started to slow down. So this gets us the true speeds, and it does pick up any of those vehicles, because we do set it up in a way that we get multi-directional traffic. So we get the eastbound and westbound in this particular case. So even if they're riding down the middle of the street or on the side of the street, we still pick up that. Yep.
I just had a question about to the north there, they had the 2 trails that kind of, or not, it's not a trail, it's like a driveway that kind of merges with the trail right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So will that be closed because of some sort of like easement or that needs to happen for that building, or will that remain?
So that will be something we'll have to figure out as part of this. That driveway is access so they can come and maintain this well house. There may be other ways for them to get their trucks down that. That's something that we'll have to figure out to see what's going to work best for them, but also safety wise for that as well.
Okay. And then I guess along with that, so would the trail still be able to connect to those sidewalks along 800 North there?
Yes.
So like from underneath the trail, you could come back up and go.
Correct. Yeah. So we would have street access from the trail, both north and south.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I know this is down the road a little ways, but once the street is widened, what's the plan for those cross streets and controlling traffic through there? We talking about stop lights or traffic lights along, the whole way there? That seems like that would complicate the traffic flow.
And it's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer right now for that. I mean, everything's a potential. So could it be potentially that, traffic warrants signals along that? Possibly. But we don't know, what that's going to look like right now. Is there, any more on that? Yeah.
How long do you estimate building this thing would take, and how long would everything be blocked off?
Yeah, great question. So we are anticipating, depending on our time frame, we are anticipating going out to bid spring of next year. So about a year from now, we want to have boots on the ground construction starting about June next year. We anticipate that it will probably take 9 months to a year. That's an estimate. We'll know more once we have designs and a contractor on board from what that schedule is, but we're anticipating probably all of next year it will be under construction in some facet. And so that will be something that Vern is working closely with for detour routes and making sure that traffic's flowing around this very, nicely. Obviously, there's going to be delays and we're going to have to monitor that. Pedestrians are going to be a little bit easier to kind of move through this. We do have that pedestrian bridge just kind of a block north of this. Pedestrians will be a little easier to move through this corridor. But as we kind of get more into the design and stuff, Vern will have some traffic detour plans for that.
May I ask a question of Vern?
Yeah.
Does your monitoring equipment include sound? I live on 1550 West. I used to be an airfield security driver at a major airport, and some of the vehicles that go down my residential street in Grandview rival an idling Airbus.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but my monitoring equipment only catches video, speed, and volume. It doesn't catch sound. Yeah.
I have a few questions about the bridge here. So you guys have traffic data, the same kind of speed and stuff on both the east and west side of the bridge now, I just assume, right? About that. And can you share like what that is now? How fast are people going on the road currently?
I don't have the numbers before me right now, Eric, but I can relook at those numbers. If I remember correctly, 820 North on average from Independence over to 500 is somewhere right around 38 is the average speed. It's pretty high.
It's
Now,
25-mile-an-hour road.
right, but realize it used to be a 35-mile-an-hour road. Since my time, I don't know when it was changed from 25, but right now the speed limit's 25.
Okay, then my next question was, I noticed on your designs, you're going to 12-foot lane widths across the bridge from the 10-foot or something they are now. Won't that just make the speeding problem worse?
People are going to drive a speed that they feel comfortable with, and if you design this at 11 to 12-foot lanes, they'll probably drive 35. Okay. People are doing that now. They're driving 38 now. And so if you actually post the speed limit for the posted for 85th percentile, you would probably get the same speed. Everybody fears that if you sign at 35, they're going to do 40 or 45. And that's not necessarily the case. People don't feel that safe doing that in most instances, but not in all. So traffic calming is something that I'm going to take very seriously, especially when we're looking at detour routes. I'm going to have to implement some creative traffic calming. I'll just phrase it that way.
Thanks. There's an accident right next to this bridge just last week. Is there any? Do you know more about that or the causes of that?
I have not seen the accident report, and I get those, so evidently it hasn't been emailed to me yet.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to say one more quick thing. I know some people kind of treat the road widening as an inevitability, but I just want to point out there's non-technical values at the base of that decision that I think we need to examine before we just assume that road widening is the best course of action, because it's gonna tear down almost 100 homes along this road. It's gonna cut our community in half, and I feel make it more unsafe for the community. So I would appreciate looking at more options that don't assume that the road widening is inevitable.
And Eric, I would also say, don't assume that it's going to take out 100 homes. It may not take out any homes. So that's also, I mean, let's be fair, right? Let's be fair. If we don't have all the technical data right now, let's not
Well,
fear people.
my last count was 85 of
Okay.
the south side on west of the river and the east side north of the river.
And again,
or
it
north
may
of the
not,
city.
right? If we're designing this bridge to keep it open where it could be designed on the north, the middle, or the south, let's just keep an open mind as that as well. If you're asking people to keep an open mind that it's not inevitable that the road has to be widened, it's not inevitable that if we do widen the road, that we have to take out 100 homes.
Okay.
There,
But the definite inevitability is that it will take out homes. There is no situation that I can imagine that will not take out homes. But I wanted to comment, as an avid speeder along 820 North, the bridge is that cutoff point. I can be flying past DI, and I won't say how fast because there might be someone else listening. And then I hit the bridge that does this to me, and it's like, ooh, 25, because I know there's a cop down there and he's going to catch me. Okay, I've only had that happen once, but thankfully. But that's been the cutoff. If we now make the bridge so easy and so wide and so transparent from the DI side to the residential side, then I'm really concerned that people will continue DI speed onto the residential area.
appreciate your comment. And that's why we're holding these meetings, sir, is to get good input. I know Eric's talked about traffic calming, and we need to look at all that stuff. And so every meeting that we attend, and you saw the great list that we've received so far as input from these entities here, it's been very valuable for us as staff to receive your feedback.
Okay, we're running out of time. One, maybe two questions. You had one, and
Just like speaking of like traffic calming, I don't know if it's been like discussed or anything within the plans, but in one of the ideas you had like kind of a amenity space on the other side of the barrier. Would you consider putting that closer to the road so that it's a separated bike lane and pedestrian lane on the other side, so that they're not as like a bike wouldn't be directly next to the road, it would have an extra barrier? Is that in any of your?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd like to see that barrier. And in fact, we show one of the drawings shows the bench facing the wrong way, right? We want to face it toward the river. Who wants to face it toward the road and watch traffic? You want to face it toward the river and get the ambience and the sound of the river. So very good point.
Aaron, and then shall we wrap this part of the meeting up?
I'm mystified by the idea that we can widen the road without taking any homes.
It's because the design hasn't been done, Aaron. We don't know when. The MAG has it in their plan. We had it in our plan, but it's looking like beyond 2042 or around that area before we would, even think about widening the road. And if it does, and we experience all that growth on the west side, let's take a look at what the design numbers say. Maybe we could narrow the lanes and have a facility that doesn't take out homes. I just don't know. Okay.
You take maybe not homes, but significant amounts of people's front yards.
There would be frontage taken. Yes, there's
Okay.
no doubt
All right.
about that. Now, you said homes. So let me just say property. The property would be impacted, right?
And whether anybody would want to live on such a corridor.
Yeah.
That's
another story, right?
right.
Yep.
And 800 North in Orem, compromised hundreds of homes, took out entire chunks of access to neighborhoods as it extended out to the canyons. I mean, that's the policy in this county, in this state, is, you know, residents be damned, we're going to widen the freaking road. And I live way too close to 820 North to ever want that to happen in my lifetime. I'm only 64. I plan to be around here for 30 years. So you want to do it in 2065 or something like that? Not a problem. I'm not going to be here. I won't care, right? But that's the case. Is that I only see one real good purpose, and I'll just make it plain. I'm a doctor, and that's Utah Valley Hospital. And I think, you know what? I'm sorry they built the hospital in the wrong spot. But if they really want freeway access, if they really want, you know, 5-lane access to their hospital, so it doesn't take 15 minutes from the freeway, then, you know, 820 North is not the path. You put the $120 million worth of hospital and office building in the wrong freaking spot. And that's not my fault. Location, location, location.
Thank you. You know, it's such an expensive project, and it's so far into the future in the sense of how massive dollars it would take. I'm going to be honest. I don't think we have the budget to do it if we were going to do it as a city. I think that would have to have state assistance in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Yeah,
Thank you
it's all
so
over this
much.
county.
Thank you so much, Vern and Tim, Dave, and for all your work and your clear presentation. Thank you for all the input from the community. And this has been good. What? Oh, yes. Thanks to all of us too. We now will move on to our Provo School District update. And then we'll have a report on what we've been doing as an executive board since our last meeting. And then we'll have another few minutes for public comment.
Thank you. All right, I'll try to catch us up. I've got 9 minutes. So let's go to the next slide. We hired a new superintendent in July. She started more in June. We have been moving at a rapid pace since then. There's all kinds of stuff in here. We don't have time to go over every little thing, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can. We are in the midst of doing a strategic plan, basically to help us guide all of our decision-making into the future. We're in the final stages of that, and the current focus is on our priorities and goals. This is all kind of draft, but we are toward the end of the process, but I asked permission to put this up, even though this probably won't be the actual final one, because I think it gives us a good idea. So our priorities will be, number one is the academic achievement. That's why we have schools, right? Is to help these kids learn and have good academic achievement. We also want to be a good steward of our resources, which I think we have struggled with in the past as a school district. And then also wellness and safety. And then surrounding all of those will be that we have opportunities for all, mainly students, but opportunities for families and students, as well as family and community engagement. We need to be better about involving families and parents and having the community, even those without current students in their home, let them be involved, have a say in what's happening, and all of those things. So that's our basic priorities. Our mission and vision is welcome, educate, and inspire. And then we want it to be a vibrant learning environment where all students become lifelong learners and engaged community members. And so one of those, if you go to the next one, I think I put these together yesterday, but I don't remember what I put on these slides. Okay, go back, sorry. One thing that I think that we need that I want to discuss with this is with academic achievement. Our new superintendent has really put a big emphasis on academic achievement, proficiency scores for our students. We have like a mid 90 percentile graduation rate, but our proficiency scores are well below that. And so we're trying to bring those together so that our proficiency scores match our graduation scores. One of the things we're doing with that is we are having each school, but previously it was schools that were Title I or schools that were in improvement, had to have specific academic goals and plans and how they're gonna, what are they gonna do to improve? Now, all schools will have those. And so it's been interesting to watch all of the schools come on board with this. They'll have key performance indicators that help us see where the different schools are and then how can we get all of the schools performing better, regardless of where they are right now. Okay, go to the next slide. Facilities. So these are our buildings mainly, mainly buildings. We recently had some community meetings. We had 4 community meetings, 2 on the east side, 2 on the west central side. We discussed school district facility and programming needs, financing options, and we answered questions. People seem generally supportive of building needs, if it's done wisely and if we are taking in the community feedback about these buildings. We have upcoming boundary meetings. So we're going to do a whole boundary study for the whole district because it hasn't been done since 2006, and that's way too long. We have had too much growth. So we need to have a boundary study to help us understand how to best utilize the space that we have in our schools. But we have 2 issues that really need to be looked at right now. Right now we have our Osprey Park, which is over in the Franklin Sunset View area. They're currently there's some developments going in there. The developers have it in one school, whereas it basically goes down right in the middle of one of the houses that they're building is the school line. So we have to now do a boundary study and have open feedback and things like that. So that will be June 6th at 6 p.m. at Sunset View. And then on June 10th, there's one on Heather Lane. I'm hoping I got these dates right because they switched them around and I think that's right. So Heather Lane is in the Sunset View boundaries. One side of the street, it goes to Spring Creek. The other side of the street goes to Sunset View, and a handful of them decide to go to Franklin. And so we wanted to make sure that we had the right, we're considering a change there so that both sides of the street will go to the same school. But again, because of laws that have been recently passed, we have to have a public hearing. The public hearing will be on June 10th. Shoreline Middle School is almost complete. The ribbon cutting will be on July 29th at 5:30, followed by an open house from 6 to 8 p.m. So feel free to come in. I've walked through it, not recently, but in the last 6 months. It's a nice building. The Dixon site, in some of the recent facility meetings, we got general feedback. We got specific feedback, but generally the feedback was no developers. People don't want us to sell the Dixon site to developers, and they would like to keep the green space. There are 1 or 2 people who don't have the same idea. I love you, Eric. But for the most part, people want to keep the green space. We haven't made any final decisions, but we're really getting to the point where we need to. So all the information we got from these meetings will help us now focus on what we want to do, and what we're looking at is making it educational purposes. A lot of people thought we would put the district offices in there. We could put the district offices in there, but our new superintendent is trying to heal the community divide that happened over the shoreline move. And so she's going to be listening to what we have to say. So right now we're looking at it for educational purposes. Current uses, including now and into the future, because classes are completely done there. We have adult ed classes happening there. And then the Boys and Girls Club will be renting some of that building while they are rebuilding their building on the east side. And then here are just some various other things happening. We have Camp Big Springs happening next month. We are looking at a new cell phone policy. Governor Cox requested that we basically ban cell phones in the schools. So we're taking a look at that. And it will look different. An elementary and middle school will look different than it does in high school, but we are looking at that. Before we implement anything, we want to make sure we get good feedback. And so we won't have a plan ready to go by fall because it's just too soon. But probably next year, in the middle of next year, we will transition into a cell phone policy, but please be looking for, we'll bring information to these neighborhood meetings as well. We'll be looking for input, particularly from parents and students and employees. Although after having done all that work, they're now looking at putting in legislation to ban cell phones, which I'm not going to comment on that publicly, but I think we can do it. We can handle it on a policy, right? On a policy level, and they're just going to give us time to do that. But all of our work may be for naught because the legislature in 2025 may run a bill about that. Policies we're looking at that we just passed was micromobility devices. Scooters and e-bikes that just passed. We have a culture and belonging statement. Just as a board, we wanted to make a statement that everybody is welcome in our district. We updated that. And then we're still trying to update all our policies from this year's legislative session. Summer break will end. Well, school will begin August 13th, but right now we are in summer break. We will begin this was our first year of having student board members on the board, non-voting board members. We just selected 2 new ones, Hutch Fale from the Provo High Boundaries and Monica Tuaone from the Timfie Boundaries. So they will begin their term on July 1st. And then upcoming board meetings are June 11th and June 25th. That was a lot of information. Are there any questions? You guys are like, okay.
We'll do our next presentation and we'll have time for questions in 10 minutes. Okay, okay. And all of you want to stay, of course, because you want to win Provo Rec passes, right? So it's a raffle. So if you can put up my slides, we'll do this. This is our executive board, and we are very busy working in your behalf when in between these meetings. We don't just show up for these meetings. So I like to let you know what we're doing. Oh, one thing you should know is that we lost 2 districts, 2 neighborhoods in the redraw of we no longer have Pleasant View and University. They kept the best ones with us. All right, next. So this is what we've been doing. We had a meeting with Provo City Engineering about Carterville utilities. And to tell you the truth, it was a long meeting and we didn't really get very far. Basically, they told us, yes, the utilities are aging and Provo is addressing the problem as needed and as funds are available. And so if you have trouble with the utilities, it was pipes, right? It was plumbing mostly that we talked about. Storm drains, sewer, storm drain. If you have problems, call Provo City Engineering and let them know. And they'll keep track of that and then something will happen if they see the need. So, but we talk to them and they know that we care. Next. This dance hall permit, this is interesting. Are you guys aware? There's a dance hall at 1700 North State Street. And the police have been called out on several occasions because of activity there. And so on April 12th, there was a request to revoke the dance hall permit, but then it was continued to allow the event center to add security. And then just recently on May 8th, the police again asked for the permit to be revoked, but the item was again continued to allow the event center to increase security measures. And the police will report back to the Planning Commission on August 28th. Rachel, do you have anything more to add to that? I'm sorry, I wasn't at that meeting.
Yeah, just that the Planning Commission, they're having to weigh the safety of the neighborhood with people who make their living at this event center. And so that's why they're giving them more time. The first time in April of 2023, they gave them time to set up security, but then they realized that the security that they had didn't quite understand the laws. Like they thought their parking lot was a public area that they weren't allowed to question people in. And we had explained to them like, no, that's your private parking lot. So there was some miscommunication. That's why they're giving them a few more months to get their security trained and hopefully tighten it up. They've had problems with fighting, DUIs, disorderly, just a lot of where the police just do not like that they're getting called out all the time to that one place. But hopefully we'll get an answer August 28th, whether the security measures have worked or if they're going to revoke that permit.
Thank you, Rachel. And I did neglected to introduce Rachel. Rachel Breen is our den mother. She takes care of us, and she knows everything. So thank you for stepping in there. And neighbors, if you have problems with this dance hall again, let the city know so that, or if you love it, let the city know. So we have that input. Okay, next. There's a sober living house that has gone into the South Grandview area. And at the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion. People were concerned about having this facility in our neighborhood. We've been working with Rob Allen with Provo zoning. They have a rental agreement license that's approved for to have three unrelated individuals in the house, and that's all, or a single family. And so we can just say, let the neighbors should, be aware of what's going on there and let the city know if there are violations. Do you have anything to add to that, Mel? He's been following it.
Just that there is an exception to the zoning law of three unrelated individuals living in one house, sponsored by or not sponsored by, but allowed for by the American Disabilities Act. The owner of that place has filed for that exception, which would allow them to have as many as the house would hold, essentially. That's before the city now, and we should know I think we should know within the next 2 or 3 weeks what the status of that would be, whether the city has rejected it or approved it. And we can at least report in our August meeting.
Right. So we're aware of that. Oh, we're gonna have questions later. It's going to be 5 minutes, promise. Okay, so next. Matching grant funds, we did all this service, and so we got matching money from the city, and this is what we got for our money. We got a wonderful volleyball court in Carterville Park, yay. And next, and we got the solar light battery replaced at Lions Park, which doesn't look exciting, but it is. We've got lights and they'll last for a while, right? So that's good. And so be thinking we're going to do our service again, and we'll get funding again from the city. So be thinking what would be a good project in your neighborhood for us to spend our money on. Next, we get $7,500. This is so cool. The Bike Walk Provo is sponsoring, and we are co-sponsoring with them. Every second Sunday, they'll choose a different neighborhood, and they'll have a slow stroll and roll where we can just sort of walk along our neighborhoods or ride a bike or use your scooter or whatever. And then we're providing snacks for it. And thanks to Mindy, who has been purchasing snacks for us. Next. Party in the park with the city council. And here's our councilman and also Rachel. Yes, Rachel, hi. The city council will be there, and they're providing free hot dogs and chips and drinks, and there'll be tunes and good times, and it will be really fun. And you can play volleyball on our new volleyball court at Carterville Park. Next. And that's it. That's it. Now, public comment. There we go.
On the facility, the picture that you just pointed, that's right next to the Stake Center, and it's 0.3 of a mile from Westridge. What are the background checks that these individuals have to make sure that there's no sex offenders and so forth that slip in?
So it's my understanding that they do background checks, and that these people who live there are primarily people who come out of recovery facilities to have a place to stay after they've come out. It's also my understanding, I mean, this is according to the owner, that anybody who violates the rules of the house, that is, they start using drugs again, then they're removed. So we don't know yet how that is policed. We're still trying to find out more information about his program for the house and what kind of management they have. But that was at least his report to me.
Okay. I've talked with the owner and I've helped them move some stuff and stuff like that. That's my only concern. I worked in a facility, so I understand a lot and I don't mind helping people out, but I think that before somebody comes, they need to have that background checked before they check in. So I don't know how you can check that.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I don't know how that would happen, but I certainly agree.
Yes.
We're going to do everything we can to make sure that the owner abides by all the requirements of the city and the state. My understanding is that if he gets this ADA exception where more people can stay in the house, that he will probably have to qualify for a state license as well, which will afford some kind of accountability, although it's not a lot.
I don't mind helping people out, stuff like that, and I'm for all that, but I just want to make sure that going to have problems that shouldn't be there.
That's correct.
Oh, I've got someone here.
It would be better if he made the comment since it goes along with that.
All right, is it the same comment?
So my question with regard to that is simply that I have a cousin who does this for a living in Southern California, and once he had one facility in place, he felt that that was a precedent to be able to then have a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth in the same neighborhoods because it was already approved once. Are we going to be allowing zoning overlays to make that acceptable to have 4, 5, 6, 12, and 38 homes?
Good question. Good question.
Just to kind of answer that, Justin, from the council office. So it's not a matter of whether the city allows, it's not a permitted or a conditional use permit. It's a permitted by right based off of filing for a reasonable accommodation under the ADA. So really that's
different from what it currently is. There was going to be an ADA filing that's different from the 3 that are allowed right now.
So the ADA filing is to apply for a reasonable accommodation. If they're requesting a reasonable accommodation, then it's not a matter of a yes, no, it's a permitted use. So
yes, but right now it's for 3 people. The ADA accommodation is to allow 400 if they fit. So, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
I think let me make sure I'm understanding where you're coming from. So the 3 people is not under that would be for, that's not ADA, that's just that.
So 3 unrelated individuals in a non-related to the owner home isn't allowed under current city ordinance in South Grandview.
Oh, actually, I think it is. I think that if you own a home and you want to rent it out to somebody in the R1 zone, you can have 3 unrelated individuals, but not 4. Yeah, it's 3. That's it. Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Like I could have my daughter.
If it's family, then then you don't have that restriction. That's my understanding of the law. So and that's what he's been given, as Beth mentioned, a rental license to do that while this exception is being checked into. And
city has the licensing capability to license it that way. Or is that
you're
just,
talking about the rental agreement?
Yeah. Is that just universal? Anybody?
No, I think that's a licensing that they have to apply for.
Okay.
Right. And it's also up to neighbors. The zoning office will periodically check, I think, into some of these homes if there's a complaint or some recognition of a violation. They'll check into it and then see what they can do about that. But ultimately, I think that it's the neighbor's responsibility to kind of watch that and see and report.
I'm bringing up a new topic, sorry. And I plan to bring it up next month at the Carterville party as well. But I thought I would throw it out there tonight so people can be thinking about it. I've had a neighborhood meeting in my home about 2-3 years ago with Catrice McKay, and she's well aware of this, but nothing seems to happen permanently. There are about 16 neighbors along 850 West right by the Carterville Park who have a strip of land behind our homes, and it's between the sound wall and our property lines. And every year the weeds get up, they're up to my neck now, all right? And the city always says they don't have any responsibility, but then they tell me to contact, I don't know who it is, highway people, yeah, and UDOT, and then it never gets done. It's such a huge, for me, a pest and fire concern. One little firework goes off in there and we have fire. And then constantly grasshoppers and all kinds of pests. But every year I have to call someone to come out there. To me, it ought to be something that's done automatically a couple of times a summer. Before the wall was up, they did it 3 times a summer. But since the wall, it's as if they've forgotten all about it. You know, people can't see it, so we're not going to mow it.
So who is the owner of the property?
I guess it's the state,
The state does.
not the city. But it's so frustrating because you would think they just put it on their schedule. We're going to come in May, July, and September, but that's all it would need. But it's just such a frustration because those weeds are so high right now because of all the rain we've had. And I'm just tired of fighting it every single summer. Does that make sense? I've owned my house since 1990, and every single summer we fight this same war every summer.
Thank you. That's good. And keep calling them, you know, maybe they'll be able to do something. I mean, they'll get the story, and have your neighbors call too. Yes. What were you saying, Leah?
I'm going to send her the new dot contact that we've used before. I've just given you the number.
Well, when they hear from more people, you know, I think more things happen. Any comments or questions oh, go ahead.
The traffic people are here. I'm just wondering, has anything been done or further on the intersection of State Street, 1720 North and Carterville Road? That's still a problem. It's a little bit better now that the students are here, but it's still a big problem, very safety hazard also there.
It was a question for you, I think, Vern.
I apologize. I was daydreaming, okay? I was thinking about Wyatt's contact over at UDOT, but yeah, say that again, please.
Intersection of State Street, Carterville Road, and 1720 North.
Yes.
That's still a problem. You know, it's a little better that the students aren't here, but come August, it's just going to be really bad. It's very hazardous there.
I think we've done some improvements to that, and we.
Doesn't do much. Very little.
Beth, I thought that intersection has improved at Carterville Road and 1720 North.
Just a bit.
We can continue to improve it, but you're not going to like what I have to do next, and that is restrict left turns. That's the next step. I try to start off low cost, right? And start off with lower impact. But the next one would probably be restricting left turns off of 1720 North onto Carterville Road.
State Street, and people try to turn, but the other thing is also trying to turn west, going up, you know, towards Speedway. You can't, because there's something, you can't see the cars coming, and it's a big problem.
That's a poorly designed intersection from the beginning, and having the apartment complexes access right next to the intersection. That's a big challenge. Yeah, it still is. And I think, has it been a year since we've done that, Beth?
And I think that do not block square with do not block has helped tremendously. every time I drive through there, I stop and then I watch people being able to turn right and turn left. Rachel.
Okay, we have Shelley. Did you have a comment? Did you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Vern, for taking care of the speed limit signs on 300 West of 1230 North. However, we are having more accidents at 1230 North and 300 West. And I actually had, after an accident, somebody made a comment that I had not noticed, that the new traffic light, when you're coming from the eastbound to the west side on 1230 North, the new stoplight at 400 West actually hangs lower than the one on 300 West, and people are noticing the green light on 400 West and running the red light on 300 West because that light is higher.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I can take a look at it.
That would be might be helpful because we've had several people comment after accidents that they have actually ran a green light and they were looking at that 400 West light. And that might be some of the problem with some of the people that are flying around the corner at our intersection.
So with regard to the 1700 North on State Street, the problem that I'm seeing with that general intersection is that ever since we had the car wash go in there, people are southbound in the left turn lane right in front of XLI over and over and over again. And so then people have to slam on their brakes because they can't get in the left-hand turn lane, and it backs up traffic that's northbound on State Street. Is there any potential resolution to that aside from dropping a concrete barricade in the middle of the road to stop people from turning into the car wash?
I took this problem to UDOT, talked to them and said, I think we might need to look at a solution here. Their solution is, it's not our problem. And I said, it's your road. So it is your problem. What I think I got the response is probably not very appealing to anybody, and that was raised medians.
Shifting the access to that plaza 40 feet south.
Yeah, ideally that would be great, but that's private property and we can't make improvements to using public funds to private property. We're kind of stuck with what we got from a land use perspective there.
Access points are, and so if zoning were to change, then that would be, we're changing access all the time.
Absolutely. If the whole thing redeveloped, we would look at a different site plan and different accesses for that. That is correct.
Comment here and then be thinking if you have questions for the school board, for our school board representative. Anybody have? I have a question. Tell me about got another microphone around here. Here. Tell me about your plans for the old Grandview school property.
That is a good question. So that will be part of when we have the boundary study, it will take into consideration all the properties that we do own. Currently, the Grandview property is used for to house some of our district personnel, because our district office, we really do need a new district office, but nobody wants a district office in their area. Probably including Grandview. Would you guys care if you had a district office up there? That is one of the things that we have talked about, is possibly building the district offices there on the Grandview property. Having said that, this is way early in the process. So don't quote me. Don't go and say Gina said there's going to be a district office on the Grandview property. That's just one of the things that we've been talking about. So right now it's going to house, it's just housing some of our district personnel. And then in the future, I don't think there's any need for a school up there. I don't know what happened previously when there were 2 schools. I don't understand that because I wasn't on the board at that time. But we do not currently have any plans to sell that property or do anything like that. Right now, we're waiting for that boundary study to kind of tell us here are because part of the boundary study will be here's the programs that we have, here's the space needs that they have. And so here's the recommendation that they would give us about what to do with the different, like where to house different things. So we don't have any concrete plans for that now, but except that we don't have any plans right now to sell it. I don't know if that's a good answer.
It seems sometimes like it's not being cared for very much. And so it becomes sort of an eyesore. And there's these lovely playgrounds there, but they're getting overgrown by weeds and things. And we in my family, we especially like the little kindergarten playground because there's not a lot of playgrounds that are appropriate for small children. But now it's getting so, you just don't know if you want to use it.
So that is very good feedback. I don't live up there, so I did not know that. I am on the facilities committee. I will pass that along and make sure that, because the playground should be on our property. Actually, the one thing I don't know is if the city owns any of that, and if it's, because sometimes
The park is over there. I don't know.
I don't
Where's
know,
the park and where's
but we can definitely take care of ours, and then I can let Eric or Aaron know what I find out.
Okay.
But I will take that back and say that they do that we need to make sure we're taking care of the property.
I'd like to hear more briefly about the micro mobility policy. She would too. And then somewhat related to that, Beth introduced this series of slow strolls and rolls that we're having. And I was contacted by a parent in this Sunset neighborhood who's also on the district board. And he was very interested in having a slow stroll and roll in his neighborhood in August, right before school began, because there's ongoing concerns. Vern, don't daydream. Ongoing concerns about the walkability and bikeability of the Shoreline Middle School. And so just wanted to bring that to your attention. And I hope about 5-6 years ago, the city and the school district really collaborated very closely, and in the space of a year made drastic improvements to improving the routes to school. They did more in a year than they had done over the previous 10 years. So I know the council, Rachel and Gary, have made active transportation one of your 3 policy priorities this year. So I'd like to see action on that front, and collaboration between the district and the city. Yeah.
I do think that we have some good collaboration right now with the city, with our safe routes to schools. As you know, part of the issue is that we're missing a lot of sidewalks over there by Shoreline and by Sunset View. And we have talked to the city council about it. The city council, I think, are pretty strapped as far as money goes, because none of us like to pay taxes, but we really like the sidewalks. So I think that's something I was very happy to hear that sidewalks is I think maybe the top, well, I guess active transportation / sidewalks is the top priority, but we will continue to work with them. As far as I think the official title is micromobility devices, and there's another part to that. But basically, the reason that even got started was because there was a high school student, I believe it was up in the Timpview area, that was on a bike, the electric bikes that go really fast, that I actually think is not actually an electric bike. It was like, yeah. And someone was very upset that he was going about 35 or 40 miles per hour. So we looked at at our policy. So basically what it says is it kind of limits where those can be used on campus. We cannot say what happens off of our property, even on the sidewalks or even on the roads. But we can say as soon as you hit the school property, you have to get off of those devices and walk it so that you're not hitting pedestrians. So that was a lot of what that talked about. It also talked about what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. There were questions about golf carts, because I guess sometimes people bring golf carts to school. Don't ask me what we said about golf carts, because I can't remember and all the iterations, but basically that's what it was, is that kind of thing. I'm sorry, I did not come prepared.
No,
Okay.
Thank you so much. We have a comment back here, and then that's our last comment.
Okay, we have a comment from Jean. Now that Rotary Park is largely a sports park, it would be great to have Grandview Park be a quiet, strolling botanical park similar to Nelson Grove and Orem, perhaps with a fenced-off free-run pet area included. And then we have Deanna that's been waiting to make a comment. And then I don't know if there's time. Shelley wanted to make another comment, but Deanna, if you want to unmute yourself. Deanna, we can't hear you. Oh, she says her mic isn't working. Let me see. Shelley, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do. I was wondering what has been done. We live on a bike lane, and the entire road is a bike lane. And we are having students use these power scooters and bicycles on the sidewalks. And I personally got ran over by one of the motorized scooters again the other day. What kind of liability is there for them to take care of somebody that's injured?
Who do we address this question to? I don't know that answer. Is there anyone here who does? Okay.
Yeah, so they would be personally liable for the injury that they caused to you, even though it's on public property. And as a city council, we did pass speed limits for bikes and devices on sidewalks. So on a regular sidewalk, the speed limit is 10 miles an hour. And on a bike trail, it's 15 miles an hour. So they are in violation of the law. If they get caught doing that, then there are little charges that can be brought against them because of our city code. The personal liability would be a personal tort, a civil action that you would bring against them if they hung around and you knew who they were. I would imagine in that kind of case, it would be another hit and run situation. So not very satisfactory.
Thank you. The other question, can we get that or no? Okay. Okay, I want to say thank you very much for sticking it out, and what a good conversation we've had. I feel like we've learned a lot. Thank you to our presenters and for your great presentations and for responding to our questions. Thank you for being here. Bring your neighbors next time. Our next meeting will be in August. Is that right? August 24th. Now we will have the drawing for our raffle.
All right, thanks for sticking around. These passes are good. They're day passes at the rec center. They're good until about the end of August. So Aaron, why don't you reach in? I think I have about 10 of these. So we'll go quickly.
Two to each person who wins. Two to each winner, right? Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The number is 794-137. 794-137. just, okay. Oh, wow. Oh, just, all right, here goes. So just the last three numbers?
Yeah, just last week.
141. Mindy Jepson. 142. Mindy Jepson again. Oh, okay. 134. No name. Yay. And 138. Garrett Maxwell. Nice. And 132. Ivan. Yay. 146. Annie Ked. And 144. Susan Anderson. And 133. Yeah, oh, good. You can go as a family. And 140. Gina Hales from the school district.
Last two.
Last two. Nicole Isaac. Oh, good. That's it?
Yeah. That's it. Thank you. I just noticed on some of these passes, they're the 1st of August. So use
So
them.
watch your expiration date. Thanks so much for coming. Come again. Let us know if we can help.